Welcome back, everyone, as we close out this first week of this journey together. Today is time to pause and reflect and celebrate the progress that we've made in this first week. Join me as I identify the top 5 things I've learned on this journey so far and set the stage for the week ahead. Hi, everyone. My name's Paul Heron, and if you're brand new to this journey, this is day number 7 of my 365-day podcast challenge, where I intend to create, upload, and post a podcast a day for the next 12 months. I just want to start this episode today by firstly just expressing my gratitude for all the support and encouragement that I've received so far over the last week. It's been fantastic and has really added to my sense of excitement about the possibilities of where this journey can take me, and who knows where it's going to go. But I'm just so excited that I've finally got through this first week, and my mind is racing about what I'm going to tackle this week coming up. But before I get to that, here are the top 5 lessons and things that have really stood out to me as being most important this week. Number 1 is the importance of moving from planning to be ready to actually being in motion and doing the thing that you're passionate about. It's a completely different mindset when we're thinking about doing something, when we're in that planning phase, when we're waiting to have all the dominoes fall into place. It's a different mindset. We're on one side of a void, I guess, and we're trying to get all the dominoes to line up before we can finally propel ourselves into the thing that we're wanting to do. The stark difference between being in action is it becomes this constant cycle of just taking an action, reflecting, improving, learning on the go. You're in this spiral that's propelling you forward almost once you've actually got started. And reflecting back, I think I said this on Monday when I first got started last week, I could have sat in that phase indefinitely. I could have found excuses to still not quite feel ready. But I am so glad that I bit the bullet and just jumped in. And, of all the lessons that I am going to mention today, this probably still is going to be number 1. And it's number 1 for a reason, because I'm finally started. I'm finally in action. I've expressed to the world what it is that I intend to do and what I want to get from this. And I've got started. And the feedback I'm getting is invaluable. I feel like the wheels are in motion, and once we get started, it can actually be difficult to stop. So my advice to anyone out there thinking about embarking on an adventure themselves, we want to put the appropriate amount of time and energy into preparing and getting ready, but we need to understand that we're probably never going to feel completely ready. And at some point, we just need to make that decision to jump in the deep end and go for it. Number 2 is to embrace imperfection. As a self-confessed perfectionist, this is something that doesn't always come easy. But this whole idea of taking on a challenge, stepping out of our comfort zone, it is all about embarking on new experiences and tackling new tasks and things that we haven't done before. It's about thinking outside the box and allowing ourselves to come up with ideas that we want to try and jump in and give them a go and see what happens. A lot of this stuff, we just don't know how things are going to play out. A lot of this stuff is new to us, and we just aren't going to be able to get things right. We are perfect, I should say. We are new to this stuff, and allowing ourselves to be able to find a rhythm of deciding the next thing, taking the next action without the fear of, what if I get this wrong? What if this all goes pear-shaped? What if this, what if that? Allowing ourselves to be able to just make a decision, feel a bit of resistance and discomfort about how we're going to actually go about it, but be able to push through that and come out the other side and have a greater understanding of, who we are and what we're capable of and how things actually work to take us into the next iteration is such a powerful way to bring this. So don't try to be perfect. Directly following on from getting started is, just embrace the idea of taking consistent, regular action and really just letting yourself be the beginner at this. The third lesson that I'm taking from this week, and one that I'd really encourage everyone to embrace, is just to trust yourself. I mentioned this in step 1 and just jumping in the deep end, but and maybe this does need to come before we make that decision, but trusting yourself and moving that need for certainty on external results back to an internal feeling of, or an internal trust of being able to overcome any result or any obstacle that falls in our path is such a powerful way to continue that forward momentum building. I think it's actually essential. One thing to keep in mind here is I hear the word confidence thrown about when I have conversations about trusting ourselves. I think there's a distinction to be made. I think confidence can probably be best described as our ability to be able to perform a particular skill. And, this whole self-trust or self-confidence is really a separate distinction there. I think if we identify a skill that needs to be developed, there might well be a gap in our abilities to edit and upload a podcast, for example. There may well be a gap in a skill, and we can put time and energy, we can put a plan in place. Once we identify that, we can put a plan in place that enables us to combat that gap in skills. We might need to do a course, we can go to YouTube, we can, there's a wealth of information available to us, but ultimately it's about putting in the practice, taking action, regular, consistent action that's going to help us improve those skills. The distinction that I want to make is this internal trust is, an understanding that we have within us already. We have everything we need to be able to take those next steps, to be able to think through the challenges that we face in our pursuit of the dreams that we're going after. And if we're able to just continuously find evidence to support the belief that whatever challenge we've got, we can zoom out, we can take a look at it, we can try and brainstorm different options, we can decide on a best next step, and we can trust ourselves to continually go through that process of testing, trying, and taking forward steps towards the thing that's most important to us. So I just want to make that distinction. Sometimes when we talk about confidence, we have that confused with our self-esteem and self-worth and self-trust. Try to split that out as much as you can. And it's okay to identify that there's a shortage in a skill. It's awesome. It's actually fantastic to be able to become aware of that, because then you can put a plan in place to bridge that gap. But this whole self-confidence and self-trust thing really is about picking that next thing, even if it's that skill that you want to develop, picking that first task and trusting yourself to be able to follow through and embrace the results, whatever they might be. Tip number 4 that I want to mention today is to embrace the journey. In the end, that's all we have. All we have is the journey. We have day after day of showing up and going through the activities that we embark on. And some days we'll face more challenges than others. Some days will be easier than others. Some days we will feel like bouncing out of bed and jumping in and doing the things we need to do. Sometimes we'll have to rely on a little bit more discipline. Some things will work out. Some days will be complete disasters. But following on from the previous steps, we want to trust ourselves to be able to continue down the path that we're setting ourselves on and move the certainty away from needing to know how things are going to pan out towards more of an internal knowing that we've got this and we've got the ability to keep pivoting and learning and testing and everything that comes with that. But in the end, all we ever have is our journey. And if we're needing to be at a point further down the road for us to feel success or feel happy or whatever that might look like, then we're deferring or delaying that sense of fulfillment until we get there. A big part of this is, for me personally, letting myself be the beginner at this. I can already see some progress, which is fantastic, but I really want to try and focus on enjoying the actual journey. I don't need to be at the end of this journey for me to feel successful. I'm already feeling an element of success just literally through showing up every day and doing this over the last week. So tip number 4 is, embrace the journey, find a way to almost make that the priority. That's ultimately all we have is moment after moment that sort of build into the life that we live, and we've got to find a way to enjoy that whole journey ups and downs, challenges, the good parts, the bad parts. Sometimes we do need to go through a challenge to be able to get to the other side of that and be able to reflect back and really feel like feel proud of ourselves for going through those challenges. But as a whole, we just need to find a way to enjoy the journey. And finally, number 5, the 5th lesson. This is more of a theme that has come up throughout the episodes that I've already done this week. And it's, this idea of staying open to learning. I loved the conversation that I had about, fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. It's come through on the marketing principles framework we looked at, my coaching framework. This is all about embracing this mindset that allows us to take consistent, regular action, to be able to move away from being tied to specific results, but, to be able to take all the feedback that we receive and get curious about it. The complete disasters, the things that exceed our expectations. We just want to be able to dive in and continuously keep this process of learning through taking action, I think is probably a great way to describe it. It's the best way to learn. I know myself, if I look back over my work career, my life, the biggest lessons that I've been able to take out of my journey so far are the things that have gone completely belly up. The complete disasters are where some of these biggest lessons have come from. In the past, I've probably found it a little bit more difficult to reflect in a healthy way sort of shortly afterwards. But I think as we keep building that muscle of, deciding what the next step's going to be, taking an action, reflecting in a healthy way, pulling out the lessons and having that influence step number 2 or the next step, that is the process. That really is the process. And if we stick to that formula, stick to this framework long enough, then everything will look after itself in the end. The skills shortages we spoke about earlier, they look after themselves in the end if we do this very thing every single day. If we just keep identifying that next step, trusting ourselves to take courageous action in line with that goal that we're setting ourselves, and learning, constantly learning from the actions that we take. We haven't really touched on this yet, but another key to learning is using the information that we have available to us to our advantage. It can be very easy to be overloaded and bombarded with information and messaging, and there's books, there's this and that, and all this stuff that can just be overwhelming. Another thing, when I think staying open to learning, another thing is using other people's ideas. There's no need for us to reinvent the wheel with everything that we're doing, but to be strategic about the way that we do go about picking out the things that we do want to try next. So there's the reflective piece after we take an action, which is fantastic to help us learn and grow. When we're planning the next step, the ability to be able to pull in ideas that we've seen, things that other people might have told us that is working for them. We want to be quite strategic about how we pull in these pieces of information, not get overwhelmed, and have that potentially help us think outside the box and inform the decision on what the next step's going to be. But it still doesn't really change this process. It is really all about action, reflection, decision, deciding what that next step's going to be, next action. And if we can get this right, it really is a game changer. So that's it, guys. They're my top 5 takeaways from the very first week of the Zero to Marketing Hero podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to get started, to get the support, feedback, encouragement that I've received over the last week. It's been really encouraging, and it's got me really inspired to continue down this path. And, as I said earlier, it just keeps, or my expectations of where this potentially go, just keep growing. There are so many different ideas that I'd love to share. Over the next week, tomorrow morning, I will give a bit of a rundown on what I intend to uncover or go through this week. A big part of the week coming up is going to be around understanding the purpose of all this, the purpose for me. I want to go through a mission statement that I've put together for this podcast and how I want to keep pushing myself and keep providing content that is that is useful for you guys as the people tuning in. Whether you're starting your own business, whether you're thinking one day this is something that you would like to do, whether you're in marketing yourself, whether you're just interested in following along because you've got an interest in marketing and showing up authentically and putting yourself out there. I just want to really clarify what this is all about for me. I want to start touching on some of my goals and objectives. And, this whole process is about testing different things. It's about showing up and trying things and seeing what works, doubling down on those things, seeing what doesn't quite go to plan and pivoting and growing as I go. So again, any feedback, please reach out. Any comments, questions, let me know. But that's it for week number 1. I'm really excited about being back tomorrow for the start of week number 2. Bye for now, guys.